Again, to look at the importance of biochemical structures and the features of biopolymer melanin from Afrocentric perspectives. He has been looking at the effects of toxic drugs and drug addictions related to biopolymer melanin. He's from Houston, Texas, a graduate of Alcorn State in Mississippi. He's intelligent, black, and single, and he told me to say that. Professor Carol Bonds. While you're setting up, I actually threw that in.
Okay, first of all, I would like to say good morning. I wanted to play a little music there. We're all familiar with the movement thing, and that we didn't have here this morning. So maybe the next time we have a conference, we'll have some music while we're assembling. Some type of music to go along with the whole scheme of things, because that helps us move. I'd like to first give thanks to the great one, Dr. Ben, Dr. Richard King, Dr. Richard Kelsey, Dr. Francis Welsing, all of the great mothers, great black mothers, and everyone that's here today. Because in a way, this is my first national presentation. I've done a lot of local and state type presentation, but this is my first national. And it's good to have you here, and hopefully I can bring a message that you can take back with you and live with. If you notice in the song, there was a lot of low bass in that particular reggae piece. And the reason I played reggae is because the Jamaican musicians still have managed to hang on to some of that Africanism, even though it's blended with some American soul. They've managed to keep the bass out front, and when they do their recording, it's done on a separate track, and the bass is always up front. And this bass may have something to do with the low movement, the low posture that we get in our movement. And as I've studied the way the sound frequencies are produced and made and the effect that they have on the melanin molecule, and some of those things might come across. Another thing that I've noticed is that Michael Jordan tends to play in a low stance. He runs down the court in a low hung stance. So all of these things are associated with the whole spiritual blackness, physical, mental thing. The initial title of this presentation a couple years back was Melanin, the Key to Knowledge, the Key to Black Greatness. Now it's transformed and became transphysical. Picked up a new word yesterday from the physicist. Transphysical melanin, the chemical key to black greatness. And although I know there's a contact with the spirituality and the physical. Most of the things that I will talk about today will show how we function practically in society using melanin. Although some of the things that I will bring in to the discussion will have to do with the spiritual or high energy or cycles per second of energy, faster than other energy or slower than other energy. Okay, this is let's slide this backwards, isn't it? Of all of this. Yeah. All of it. Okay, if you notice, we place melanin in the brain. Okay, that's a very, very significant thing, because as we go through this presentation, you will see how melanin plays a huge role in memory and memory recall. Therefore, maybe in the future, putting something together to activate that memory and memory recall at will. Okay, what makes us mature? What make us organized? What put us into a fashion where we can set up and look sophisticated at an early age? Why? There must be something that is organizing the whole system to make it report to a center core. And hopefully when we go through this whole thing, all of this will fall together. We're going to cover things like the established properties of melanin. We're going to cover proposed properties of melanin. We're going to cover why melanin has not been looked at as intensively as some other molecules have. We're going to cover why and how melanin make you perform in the manner that you perform, the social and cultural things that you do. We're going to look at melanin from the moment you was conceived and show how it plays a vital role in putting you together. Now, this is a melanin molecule, just one. Okay? This one was prepared from riboflavin, a biopigment, a carotenoid, and a quinone. One of the things I want people to understand is this. There are several types of melanin, and there are various melanin centers in the body. And they have shown that depending on the center, a particular precursor will be used. Say for instance, the substantial nigrate. There's indication that the melanin in the substantial nigrate is all tyrosinase or tyrosine melanin. In other words, one chemical homopolymerized into a huge molecule. Okay, this particular amino acid is what they think homopolymerized into the huge molecule that people have been putting together back there. So many 100,000 units. just for utilization in the substantial nigra. Okay? Now, as you go to other parts of the body, other amino acids, other subunits, or other precursors are either used singly or homopolymerized or copolymerized into the different structures of melanin. Now, this is a good model to use. I mean, you can use it just for a demonstration. Always let people know that this molecule is not the only one, because there are a number of black molecules in the body. Some of them are close to melanin, but melanin has been shown to have the most sophisticated properties of all of the colored systems. So we may have to go back to this time and time again as we go through the presentation. Now, first of all, I'd like to show you some established properties of melanin. Okay? Now, melanin is an ancient molecule. It's been around since the inception of life. Okay, now, Dr. King and Hunter get into before time, what was this and what was that. And melanin has been around for a long, long time, which may go back to just before time, before we could conceive what was going on. It's a heterogeneous polymer composed of various amounts of different aromatic rings, which you saw earlier, precursors, the primary tyrosine and tryptophan. And in a later slide, you'll see that there are about 9 of those precursors. Now, one of the things that's really, really significant is that there are certain bonds that actually cause things, hold things together, and changes in these bonds cause chemical reactions to take place. And when these reactions take place, new products are produced, and therefore you stay healthy, because the final products are produced. Now, ionic, covalent, metallic bonding arrangement, there are others. Hydrophobic, van der Waals forces. This particular molecule has shown every type of bonding arrangement that is seen in proteins. Now, you go back to this system and you talk about movement and multifunctionality. You talk about movement and multifunctionality. I want you to just look at the different functional groups there. When I say functional group, this is a functional group, this is a functional group, this is a functional group. Just tyrosine alone has a lot of functional groups. Then when you put these whole systems together, you have lots of functional groups. Now what does that translate to? It translates to many chemical reactions going on at the same time, which may translate into many moves at the same time. You get rid of that robotic effect where you actually have only 2, 3, 5 data points, and you have to go through those 2, 3, 5 data points. Whereas if you have many data points, the curve will be smoother, which may translate into the smooth rhythm that you see in black people. But all of those functional groups point out to many chemical reactions, many things that can happen at once.
Okay, we're going to see if we can get the audio a little better back.
God, they wired up. You wired up the move. Okay. Let me have that. Oh, here it is. Okay. Okay. Now, if you don't get anything else today, that's very, very important. Because what Dr. Andrews was saying about movement, rhythm, is very, very important. And these different functional groups are pointing to that true reality. Let's see, is it on here? Okay. Now let's go through some of the other established properties. These are things that they already know. They've actually been researching this for years. I have copies of chemical abstracts that goes all the way back to 1907. And back to 1907, you actually have information on melanin. Okay? Now, brain melanin increases as you go up the phylogenetic ladder, from the lower primates to the higher primates. And I say it reaches the peak concentration in black men. Okay, that's important too. Melanin is found in strategically highly functional centers of the brain, which Dr. Andrews talked somewhat about. Melanin exhibits extreme stability inside and outside the body, which is one of the reasons why they haven't been able to synthesize it or understand what it is. Melanin exhibits extraordinary binding properties for aromatic and lipid-soluble compounds or fat compounds. Now, this is going to come into play later on in the discussion when we talk about drug addiction. Aromatic systems, okay? When I say aromatic, I always think of that's gasoline, that's benzene. You go back to melanin, you see the aromatic systems that are there? There's a lot of them there. And that aromaticity tends to cause melanin to have affinity for these things. Now, this is very, very important. The first one at the top here, melanin continuously produces functional active free radicals. Now, what is a free radical? A free radical should be viewed as radiation, uncharged, runaway radiation that's produced by oxidation, the oxygen in the air, sunlight, UV light, and then just regular body metabolism produces free radicals. And if these free radicals are not terminated, eventually they progress on to cause cancer and some other reactions in the body not to take place. However, nature was pretty smart with melanin. Melanin has learned how to trap free radicals and keep them active, yet they won't harm the body. And then, when the body needs that energy, it gives it to the body for use. Okay? Melanin neutralizes free radicals. Okay? So it can produce them if it wants it, and it can neutralize them. Another multifunctional property. Now, there are some products out in the industry today that they sell. They make billions and billions of pounds a year, and they have only one or two functional groups. And we just showed you a molecule that had many. Okay? Melanin is a remarkable oxidation reduction polymer. Now, oxidation reduction is two types of reactions that go on. Okay, you can oxidize something or reduce something. And they found out that this thing is, boom, you know, it's a good oxidation reduction polymer. Okay? And it says it's able to simultaneously oxidize one substance while reducing another. So if you're making a move here, you're doing something to another substance in the body. And all of these things start to link together to be fantastic. Okay, melanin has semiconducting properties and respond to light, sound, electric stimulation like the Earth magnetic field, also high-powered electric lines that runs across the country, causes melanin to rearrange the bonds within its systems, therefore causing certain defects, which we'll get into later. But light, which Dr. Andrews emphasized so much, sound, and electric stimulation. Now, most of the time, if you think of a chemist, you always think that he's working with liquid or solid toxic stuff that's going to blow up, right? But lots of people don't think that light is a reagent. It's a chemical. Sound is a chemical or reagent when you put it and use it as a parameter in an experiment. They have, right now, I think in fact, I'm sure there's a suit that Houston Power and Light has relative to the electromagnetic radiation that has caused defects in unborn infants to mothers who live by high-powered electric lines. Okay? Now this thing says, and it's proven, that these electrical stimulations causes those bonds to rearrange. If those bonds rearrange, it must be something that nature does not want. So all of this radiation is toxifying. It's almost like being in Russia when that reactor exploded. Even though that type of radiation breaks bonds, which will kill you, this type of radiation just rearranges bonds. But you still have a different substance or a different charge on the molecule. Okay? Melanin is synthesized in leukocytes in the mast cells and therefore can be transported by the bloodstream in a hormone-like fashion throughout the body, having variable access to every cell as needed. Okay, it's an amorphous semiconductor. See, we're continuing on with all of these properties here, and there are quite a few. I mean, just many that they already know about, and they are really, really excellent properties. And I want you to remember that. These established properties are excellent. Then, as a scientist, a physicist, a biochemist, they can walk into the lab, look at that molecule there, and they can predict certain things just by knowledge of their chemistry, their physics, their biochemistry, the whole world view in science. They can predict what this thing will look and feel and taste like and how it will react. So, they've done that, and they've gone and made some proposed properties. Okay? So, this thing about an organic superconductor at room temperature, that's almost unheard of, the second one. It may function as an organic superconductor. In order for copper to conduct electricity, you have to cool it down to very, very low temperatures. Not like 0 degrees now, you're talking like minus 300-400 degrees. In order for electrons to flow through that metal with no resistance, that's called superconduction. Melanin is believed to do it at room temperature or body temperature. Okay, in this fourth one here, melanin may direct embryological tissue differentiation as well as tissue regeneration. Whenever you cut yourself and you heal and you notice that dark area just won't go away, but when you cut yourself, melanin rushes to the site. Dog, I got to heal this person before they bleed to death. I got to fight this invading bacteria. And if you look at some of the amine, IMID, and amide systems on it, which is made from here, they tend to have bacterial side type properties. They'll kill invading bacteria to a certain extent. And it's also looked at as a detoxifying agent. Okay? It may play, the last one here now, this is very, very important. It can be harmful to you if you don't live and eat right. These guys in Houston showed this, Dr. McGinnis and Dr. Proctor. They showed that it may play, or they have evidence to indicate that it may play both a cytoprotective and a cytotoxic role through its light and free radical properties. Okay? Now, again, if you get overcharged, or undercharged, or energy drained away from you by associating with white people, then it could kick your melanin into a certain charge state that is not good for you. Which raised the question, should we live with these people? See, all these things need to be brought out in a scientific fashion and given to our leaders, our politicians. And they can say, okay, now look, we got some data here, and it shows that you're running that high-power electric line across our neighborhood, or that IBM computer that my wife sat by all day, every day, and she's pregnant, and we want our kid to come out right. It has a magnetic field around it, and it messes with melanin. You take this to your politician, then you can make rules and laws and regulations to change some of the way things that you're being exposed to, change your lifestyle to a certain point. So this protective role, melanin is just, it's doing it. Whether you believe it or not, it's just doing it. We live to be 60 and 70 years old when we should be living to be 100, 120, but it's doing the best it can. They said, what are y'all trying to do? We're working here, and you all won't eat right, you won't get enough sunlight, then you walk around, it's white people, and then all of a sudden my energy just drained, why don't you do something about it? And then all of a sudden, boom, you're dead. Then you have hypertension, you get all of this stress, and all of a sudden melanin kicks out phenylalanine, it depolymerizes, phenylalanine goes up in your body, among other things, like the smaller chemical units that causes blood vessel constriction, thus reducing the flow of blood through arteries, therefore increasing blood pressure, therefore high blood pressure, death. Okay? Now, this divine thing comes into being. Okay? Why is it that they've seen evidence that melanin can reproduce itself? And this is almost like having its own mind. Okay? It can sense. The tyrosinase is not there. It can sense if peroxidase, which is a proposed route, is not there. And also, the thing that it does is say, okay, well, tyrosinase, you're not doing your job. I'm going to do it for you. I'm going to complex with copper, and I'm going to make that species, that enzyme, to make melanin. So you take a melanin molecule to make melanin. It's reproducing itself. So, just by experience, years and years of experience that Hunter has in the physics lab, the years and years of chemistry and MD experience that we have in this room here, could all go toward elucidating what happens, and then coming up with answers so we can affect cultural and social, or improving cultural and social things within our life. And then establishing a technology base that we can use in every family. So, it can take you back from that low trench to that high apex again. Okay. Major locations. Now, we've been bombarded with just the skin. And we know it's in the hair, and it's in the eyes, and that sort of thing. But we don't even think about it, you know. You're looking at greatness all the time. And you don't even think about it. Okay, so I outline skin and eyes, you know, because it's there. We see it. But that's only about 2%. I mean, look at all of the other areas. 98% that we don't see. In the inner ear, the central and peripheral nervous system, the neuroendocrine system, all of the endocrine glands, the pineal gland, the thyroid, pituitary, the thymus, and then go down into the visceral area. And that's all your major organs like your heart, arteries, your sexual organs, like Dr. Andrews said, concentrated with melanin. Your liver, muscles, gastrointestinal tract. Why did nature say we're going to put blackness where there's high functionality needed, or where there will be high functionality? That's essentially everything. And then it coats the outer surface black. You know, that's just the way it is. You know, it can't be any better. You wonder why, when light goes through the eye, before it hits these rods and cones, there's a black layer that it has to pass through, and that layer is melanin. Why did it put melanin before the light passes through? So it could pass through the melanin. There's a big reason for that. Okay, now, if we got all of this melanin in us, what are some of the things, conditions controlled by melanin? Mental maturation and organization. We talked about that earlier. What made the little baby girl set up, sophisticated, proud, like a young African? Organization, body organization. Integration of sensations. Sensory input, motivation. What gives you that uplift to go out and do things and to succeed? Where you get the motivation, that inner drive from? Dreaming. Anti-cancer. Now, we can't take melanin capsules, okay? Because the melanin capsules, the melanin molecule is so big, the small intestines will not allow it to go across into the bloodstream. Okay? So, you already have it in you, so you don't have anything to worry about. However, it's preventing the white man from taking melanin. Okay? So what they're trying to do is use melanin precursors like dopamine and dopa. And hopefully it will cross the barrier and get into the bloodstream and polymerize into melanin. So you eat foods like mushrooms, red wine, and stuff like that that are high in dopamine. You bite an apple, you let the apple sit out there, and all of a sudden it starts to turn black on you. It's polymerizing into melanin, black melanin. Okay? So you eat these fruits that are high in concentration of precursors that will eventually go to melanin. Movement. I don't have to say any more about movement, y'all. I mean, that multi-rhythmic thing that we have, the downbeat. Emotions. See, we've been trained to think that emotions something is wrong with emotion, but it isn't. I mean, we would make some of the best actors in the world in Hollywood if they would just give you a chance to get down there and do your thing. Because you can show, you can move, you can go through the expressions, you can create everything physically that's needed by Hollywood. You should make great actors. Motor output, boom. Athletic, they say, yeah, y'all can do that, y'all can run, you know. You can't manage, but you know, you can play in the outfield, catch a baseball, you know, and throw it to first base. But you know, just give them the same salary though. You give that black man $80,000 or $100,000 a year to manage, and sure, he'll go down there on those training camps and do just like the white boys. Memory. See, that's very, very important. That's one of the things that we need to look at real in depth. Scientists, all professions, you know, making that child to be the number one thing. Complete. Part of it is memory. The ability to go through memory recall. Not those non-static teaching situations, but highly movable teaching situations. So the memory recall can be better. Anti-aging. Okay, again, terminating free radicals is very, very important. You know, Hunter Adams sent me an article, the New York, the Annals of, what is it, Hunter? The Annals of Science, New York Society of Science. I don't think he's in here. But in September 1985, they typed us, okay? All right. Let's see. Where's my black pen? Okay. Okay. Type 1. Type 6. You always last. Now remember that. But on my graphs, I always put it first. Okay. Type 6. Type 5. Type 4. Type 3. Type 2. You know who type 1 is, don't you? Okay. Now, they type you according to, they already established what is aging. And they got little long scientific words to indicate that. Now, you know what type 1 is? The first sign of aging. 25 to 30 years of age. They show all of these degradation type things, you know? But type 6, 50 to 60 years is when black people show those things that they consider aging. Now, 25 to 30 years, this is for Hitler's type, blonde hair, blue eyes. Okay? Then as you get a little bit more pigment in them, then they go up to like 35, maybe 40. Then when you get over here to the Japanese, you know, like the Japanese and the Red Indians and the Orientals, all the other Orientals, have more pigmentation. So they're right here, like 30 to 45 in that area. But if you notice, when you compare the white to the black, it's double. You're supposed to live twice as long. So if we're living to be 60 or 70 now, we're supposed to be able to go twice that as average age. And Dr. Leon Elverstein proved that by using black mice and white mice and feeding the white mice dopamine, extended the life, doubled the lifetime of that old white mice, which was 24 months. He took it to 36 months. Okay? Increased it like 50%. So this is important. You retype now. You're type 6. Okay? But the guy who put this together, he said black people were endowed with the tyrosinase genetic factor that converted the tyrosine over to dopamine, and finally quinones and then auto polymerization into melanin. And then he explained it relative to the amount of coloring of the buttock that was there, even with clothing on. So this is very, very important here, okay? Anti-aging is very, very important. The ability to pick up free radicals is very important. And you're going to see it in your black people as you go from dark black to high yellow black. You will see that they age a little bit faster than the darker skinned blacks. And then as you increase melanin centers, as melanin centers increase, and remember now, we're not talking about the skin, we're talking about melanin centers, hierarchy of centers that report to each other, chemically and electromagnetically. And as you go down in the concentration of melanin in these centers, then the ability of those centers to perform reduces. And Dr. Andrews mentioned earlier, the substantial niger, Parkinson's disease. Decrease the coloring of it, your motor reflexes goes out. Then they hit you with some dopa, and it comes back. It improves it. Eating energy. Okay? All of the light that's hitting you right now, that light is being converted by those bonds in the body, in the melanin. And that energy is transformed to rotational and vibrational energy. Okay. This is the ground state of energy. Okay? And when the electron comes in at the ground state, it's kicked up to certain levels. Okay? And you got levels in here. And as those electrons go up, some of them may come to here, some may come to here. And depending on where they are, there is rotational, it's called rotational or vibrational energy. But what's significant is that melanin has the ability to change that, to take that energy that's in your surrounding. Heat from the sun, UV light that to kill you, it actually takes UV light and uses it. Okay? Changes it into food. Another reason why we shouldn't eat as much, or we should look at what we eat, like Dr. Andrews said, because you're eating all the time. See, like I'm walking, that sound, melanin will pick up vibrational sound. That's why it's black. If it wasn't black, it would be giving off some of the energy that comes to it. Okay? Now we really need to know why melanin is black. That's a very, very, very highly tech situation. Melanin is black because it's very, very efficient. It does not allow any energy that hits the molecule, it does not allow any to bounce back. Okay? What you see in colors is the energy that's bouncing back. The red light, the blue light, the green light, that's what your eyes see. Anything that's black is absorbing all energy. So it's not the carbon. It's not carbon. Now everybody knows carbon is black, but melanin has those double bonds and aromatic structures that absorbs and rearranges those electrons through the entire molecule. And then it appears black because nothing comes back out and it's used. That's efficiency. Imagine if you had an energy system that you could use commercially that efficient. You see? And we could protect that knowledge and supply the whole world with energy. Kind of getting off here a little bit, you know, when you try to be organized, you know, you get soulful, and then you can't be, you know. All these years of trying to be technical, straight up, still, you know, like you said, and you can't be it. I mean, I can't follow my outline here. Let's see here. I want to tell you, okay, some of those proposed properties about this before we go further on the condition. See, I want to tell you what I have seen by looking at the melanin molecule as a scientist and using all my resources around me, okay? And being educated and becoming more Afrocentric through the Egyptian knowledge. Okay. Melanin can cause altered states of consciousness. Okay? This is one of the things, through discussion, that I feel it can happen. Altered states of consciousness. See, my God, I've seen that all. I was growing up in Mississippi in the Baptist church. I saw it happening all the time. You know? I've seen people walk benches, you know. I've seen the old mothers who were the only one who could dance in church. The young people couldn't dance. The old mothers could get up on the front row there and they could dance. That movement thing was allowed for the older ones. But I've seen people go through that altered state. And I know there are some fake shouters out there. Okay? But, you know, I've held a shouting lady. And if a person is, you know, stiff, you know, flat, stiff, altered states of consciousness. And then you observe them afterwards and it look like they've gone through an energy draining type of process. One of the other altered states of consciousness is the speaking in tongue, the high five, spiking the ball in the end zone. Okay? Improvisation, jazz music. You create music on the spot. Now that's knowledge. I mean, you take a piece and you got it all written down there and you're playing every piece and they get good to you and then you kick a note in that wasn't there. Then you go back and play it over again and you add it to that knowledge because you write it in. Okay, so where was that knowledge? Where was that? Was it the solar time sea? You know, is it there? Melanin granulars are central computers. Now, a computer supposedly can handle so many bits of information at once. And it does this with an inferior system, sand, silicon. Okay? Now, if we are so impressed with what computers can do with sand, they can't touch a system like melanin. Melanin has so many chemical reactions that it can go through processing data. Now remember, when a chemical reaction goes, you get a new product, but it affects a response in the body. And when there's something happening in the body, then that's a new piece of information that has been processed. That's information, chemical reactions. Okay? So the central computer, that means that it may be a mind down here in your leg working on its own, and sometimes it may not have to go back up the hierarchy and report to the centers in the brain. It may just take care of it down here itself. You see, that is a potential because of the highly functional state that this system has. Okay? Now, melanin causes black people to behave like sunlight, sound, and magnetism. Okay? Or electromagnetics, spiritual type thing. Okay, sunlight. How do we behave like sunlight? If you could run as fast as sunlight, you know, we're the fastest people in the world. See, melanin absorbs sunlight and rearranges it into a structure in the form of different energy. Now remember, it's a reagent, like water is a reagent. Sugar is a reagent. Propane is a reagent. And when it gets into that system, melanin takes on some of the properties of sunlight. Just like if you pour sugar into water, water will take on some of the properties of the sugar. It becomes sweet. And sugar will take on the property of water. It becomes a liquid. Black people will behave like sunlight. Now, how do you identify that? the swiftness of our black athletes. Why do we drive fast all the time? We drive fast. You know, we got to run fast. All of the swift sports is what we really like. That's the thing that thrills us. Okay? Then if you could speed up and run as fast as light, then you get CP time. Because time don't exist at the speed. That's what we measure and everything by today, and maybe something else in the future. After Hunter get hold to this thing, he may find out what it is. But right now, it's sunlight. And from my understanding, according to some physicists, you know, if you can move that fast, it just don't, sunlight, I mean, you don't have any conception of time if you can run as fast as light. Well, if light is in your body, is in melanin, then you're going to behave like light. Then another one is sound. We know that. Get those multi-rhythmic sounds, and you're going to behave like those multi-rhythmic. So those are the cultural and social things. But what happens is when you find out that there are certain other energies that you can't see. Well, light, you can see it because the frequency is what your eyes is adjusted for. Sound you hear because it's what your ear is adjusted for. But what picks up on those other frequencies? Okay? That's very, very important. Melanin is essentially involved towards keeping you conscious, aware where you are. Melanin is a civilizing molecule. Okay? Look at some of the neuroleptic drugs and compare them to the structure of melanin. And you will see that some of the sedative type effects that the neuroleptic drugs have, melanin have that structure that would lend to the same properties. So if there are similar properties as far as making you calm or controllable, then nature said, hey, look, you know, we got to make sure that these people love one another. We got to make sure they are human, civilized. So let's sedate them all their lives. So melanin is a civilizing molecule. Okay. Melanin is responsible, when you put all that together, for civilization, philosophy, religion, truth, justice, and righteousness. Now, individuals containing low levels in their melanin centers will behave in a barbaric manner.
Yes, sir.
Now, one of the things we got to make sure that y'all, this is not proposed, this is known. All black people that have melanin will show a positive marijuana test, whether you're smoking or not. That's right. Okay? Because the method that they use now, GC mass, some of the emit systems, it's not as efficient as GC mass, but the cannabinol derivative, melanin lies right over it. When you look at it on the GC mass, the M over Z is right over it. And this guy has come in, Dr. Woodford, who announced it to the nation. He said, hey, black people, you all gonna show this. He has come up with a way to kick out the melanin at that point, precipitate it out. And therefore, if you do smoke marijuana, then they will see the actual cannabinol derivative. But right now, I don't know if they're using that or not. I think that's just his method. And I don't know if that's been adopted or not. I'm sure it hasn't been adopted as much criticism as going on about it now. But if your job is in jeopardy, you better pay real critical attention to that, because a technician can walk out, go to lunch, and you'll be negative, and you come back in, melanin has started to self-memorize again. Boom, 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 linking back up into the huge molecule. Because remember, it's a detoxifying agent. It takes all of these systems, all these toxic systems in your body, kick it out into your urine, and then that's, you know, in the smaller metabolites. And then if sunlight hit it, it polymerizes again, then you're going to show marijuana positive. Okay? This is all you see. Sunlight. Okay? And we're going to move on kind of fast now. Okay? This is what you can see from like, what is it? 450 to about 700. That's visible light. Now, nature just didn't use that to give you information. This is the whole thing out of the whole radiant energy spectrum. This is all you see right here with your eye. See how small it is? Okay? Now, what picks up on all this other energy? If you look, see over here? You didn't know sound was energy, huh? Lowest audible sound. Right here. That's on the radiant energy chart. So music is energy. Okay? And then you go across the spectrum here. And this is where I feel the pineal gland. I'm saying all this to get to the pineal gland. Okay? This is where it comes into play. You got organs. The eye will pick up on a certain frequency. The air will pick up on a certain frequency. Across the board here. What picks up on the cosmic rays? The neutrinos that's coming from outer space. The pineal gland. You got your X-rays right here. You got your microwave over there. Your radar waves, you know. The cops hit you with that radar gun. Your melanin absorbs that radar. Okay? Now this is what happens to you when you don't have ample protection. Okay? Now this is serious. Okay? Because this is not happening just on the outside of your body now. Okay? This is happening internally also. You see that 25 to 30 years of age when that skin starts showing its degradation type of properties? Then the ovaries. Rush had that baby before you get 30, 35. Your ovaries are going out on you. They don't tell black women not to worry about that very much. Okay? Because you got the melanin there, keeping them strong and solid. Okay? Free radicals will do that to you. And there has to be a certain concentration. You know, equal for equal. If you don't have enough melanin to neutralize equal amounts of free radicals, then the free radicals that are left over are going to attack something, and they're going to attack the DNA. And we see it all the time around us. We see these people looking like corpse. It look like they're coming out of the mountains, caves in Europe. You see them on TV and everything is hanging all down. You know, they sit down and their legs fall all down beside them. There's no toughness in there's, you know, no rigidity in the body system, you know. Now, you all probably know all of this, you know. In the ectoderm, you know, the 3 layers, and that black layer there is melanin, conception of life, you know. Now, what is it that melanin does? Does it have an electrical current? It's an electrical current, a sustained electrical current that tells things what to do. Will DNA know what to do if it didn't have a catalyst? Every chemical reaction has to have a catalyst to kick it off, an enzyme. Supply some energy to it, just like right here. We supplied the catalyst to that system there and it worked. Okay, and then the invagination of that area to produce the spinal cord. So in a very important way, the spinal cord originates from a melanated black layer of cells. And there's indication that if it's not there within 12 hours, then nature says, get the whole thing. We got to abort. Okay? We don't have to go through this question and answer. Those are some things I should have left out of it. Now let's go to another section here. Why is it being neglected? Extremely stable molecule. We're blessed that they can't do anything with it. They don't know the structure of it. Okay? They only propose a structure. But you know, when you look at this pyramid, pyramid, pyro means fire, pyramid, pyramid. Then you start addressing the amine, amide, and emmet. Okay? Then pyramide, pyramid. This just came to me one time, you know? This is a proposal, not, you know. Now, what type of pyramid shape does that flat melanin molecule take back there when it complex with every element on the periodic chart? If it's laying flat like that and snake come in here, will it go to a pyramid shape? Now, if you got all those elements that it will, I mean, every element on Earth, this thing will complex with. Okay? So it'll be interesting in the laboratory to see if that molecule form a pyramid or a pyramid or pyramine type of shape. Okay? All of these things, electron spin, X-ray diffraction, those things can't even do anything to hurt melanin. Okay? Those are the most advanced techniques, and it's quite resistant to those. And the strongest acids and bases and that sort of thing, you have to really use real strong things. And then when you use real strong things to break it down, it changes the whole thing around, it oxidizes, it burns it up and everything, so you don't really know what you have. Okay? Controlling the environment which we live in is very important for the black man. Chemicals taken orally, chemicals in the environment, poor eating habits, lack of sunlight. All of these things have, those are things that hurts melanin there. And then general attitudes towards race have inhibited melanin research. Now, I didn't say that. One of the white guys said that, okay? Melanin is the primary pigment responsible for one's skin color. An erroneous assumption that melanin is a waste product of catecholamine or adrenaline and noradrenaline. They said, oh, well, you know, I heard a lady coming down the elevator yesterday. They was talking about, what is this conference here? Well, you know, it's, she said that it has something to do with this stuff that migrates to the surface of the skin and it's really bad, you know, when it comes to the surface. I was standing in the elevator listening to her. She was telling this white man there. And then when they got off and they looked at the table there, she said, see, I told you that. And I looked at her, I said, I can't let this lady go without telling her something, you know. And I said, hey, you were wrong. I said, you ought to check into it and find out what it's all about. That's true, really. Okay, melanin is the key to the solution to a wide variety of disorders, such as mental instability. So, if they're shown that this thing is, you know, schizophrenia, maniac depression, then it must be a civilizing molecule. See? Cardiovascular disorders, immune disorders, cancer, aging, we talked about those. Okay? Okay, when we're talking about genetic superiority, we're saying that black man has more brain power and more physical power. Okay? Now, you know, I don't think it would be there if there wasn't a reason. Why would nature just saturate everything with melanin? You know, okay, we're going to make you and we're going to throw all, you know, it's got to be there for a reason. And then you go back and dig up fossils. And they have found melanin on the bones of fossils. Okay? Then you go and dig up these mummies. Okay? And it's there. Okay? So there's no doubt about the Egyptians and the Ethiopians being black. Okay, we're going to move on to something else here. Okay, this is the light going into the system like Andrew talked about earlier. Finally, you know, through various endocrine hormones, it kicks off, the pineal gland actually produces melatonin. Melatonin polymerizes into melanin. In addition to doing all these other nice little things like making you sleepy at night, giving you euphoria, you know, makes you want to have sex, make you dream, it also polymerizes into the huge molecule. Okay, so you have a vitamin there. So, you know, when you need some of these things, and melanin say, okay, well, you need it there. Boom, I'm going to kick off melatonin there. I'm going to kick off phenylalanine there. It can depolymerize itself. Okay, this is the feedback loop. Okay, pineal gland secreting these hormones night and day, affecting all of these systems here, and feeding back to the pineal gland. Melanin has high affinity for the pineal gland. There's an article that was done by a research group in New Orleans that shows that. That's another route of looking at sun going through the eyes and the chemicals that are produced. And the same thing here without the eye there and without the body there. Okay? Now, it's backwards and turned upside down. I apologize there. Okay. Now, when the pineal gland is calcified, it produces significantly less hormone. What does less chemical production do? It reduces your ability to unlock your memory bank or stored knowledge. Now, chemical reactions in the body that's supposed to go on is reduced. That ensures good health is reduced. So remember, I told you got to have certain concentrations of these systems. It can be a small amount there. If it's not enough, the chemical reaction will not go. Okay? Some bodily actions, responses, and functions are changed, reduced, or canceled completely. Just don't do it, just like the baby being aborted. Now, percent calcified. In blacks in the U.S., about 35% blacks shows calcification versus whites, about 70%. Now, what does that do? Blacks, since it's less calcified, it produces more hormone. White people, less hormone. Okay, but you notice again, it's about 50% less. I mean, what is it, 30, 60? In fact, it's 100% less. Black people produce 100% more, which goes back to the aging thing. Doubling. We're 100% better in everything. You know, when you look at all the data, you take all the data together. I mean, if you think civilizations are great, this is a great civilization. If we had been in control, corporate America. Corporate America today is 100% less than what it should be. Okay, now this wasn't done on a human, this was done on a mice, but they measured the melatonin increase by the pineal. See, at 6 o'clock at night, see where this is done today, then around 6, melatonin levels start to increase, and around 10 o'clock, it reaches a peak, and then it goes through those up and down movements there, you know, and I don't know that, I don't have any explanation for that part of the data. It could be that the person was dreaming and using up that melatonin. Some chemical reaction started for that melatonin to start going down. And then in the morning again, you think you get up because you slept hard and all that, but you're drowsy because of that euphorial thing that you just went through. You visited with your ancestors last night because of melatonin and all of that. So you get up still drugged by nature. Okay? And we won't talk about that one. Okay. Now, these changes in body chemistry are seen in our surroundings as cultural differences. Okay? So that the European white approach to everything is really a reflection on a reduction in body chemistry. Okay? All of these things that they create for the movies, like the vampires and all of these things, it's just like them. Turn your TV down and watch TV and look at these white people with no sound. And they will look just like those things that they create for the movies, like the vampires and the all of the scary stuff. They're just like them. Okay? They have that anti-feeling posture, that logic, you know, everything is logical. You know, rigid, anti-feeling, that barbaric nature, they do anything. You know, low brain power, we talked about that a second ago. You know, and then that walk, you know, Richard Pryor summed it up, but I think Dr. Andrew did it. You know, Richard Pryor walked like that. But it's so rigid, and there's a walk type of, you know, you have to study everything about them. You got to study the whole thing. Look at their fingers. Look how the end of their fingers are not formed right. Look at the end of their fingers, all of the appendages, and the whole body structure. And you're going to see that when nature, this is important, man. When nature, when nature produces a product to perform, when we want just to perform, okay, that's not much rigidity needed there. So we use a straight chain hydrocarbon, okay? Now, if we wanted something to be rigid, something that's going to be used on the body of a car, the fiberglass, Then we cross-link it. Branch, or branch. And that adds rigidity to the system. Okay, well, nature did the same thing. Nature branched us for high performance. Okay? And they addressed that in the literature. Arthur Young addressed that in his literature. Okay? Now, when you branch, what you are on a small level, you're going to show in the final product. Okay? The refined nature of the body structure of black people. The lips that we thought was too big, and the muscles that are well defined, and our black ladies wanting to have no hips because they see the white ladies on TV with no hips, then that happens. You see? But this is more complex. This is more complex than that. You want a higher genetic nature. Okay? I got 5 minutes here. Let's see what I can do about this. Okay, now this is what black people do. Okay? Higher access to our stored knowledge, high brain power, creations of high civilizations early in the Earth history. Okay? More civilized, less barbaric, more caring, smooth with rhythm, better coordination, higher athletic performance, higher music creations, we already familiar with that, greater artistical creations, more spiritual and emotional than white. Blacks can get into that feeling, that intuition state in which the left and right brain joins to produce the third eye, knowledge, into inner vision. Okay? Black woman has the highest functional pineal gland in humans. Black woman has greater potential for conceiving knowledge, inner vision, seeing into the future and the past, closer contact with light, sound, and magnetism, God, the cosmos. And I have several references to show that the Ethiopians and the Egyptians, the black woman had the highest ability for seership. Okay? She was part of putting all that knowledge together. So take your place, okay? We won't go through this because we've talked about the different stages. This is old material now. It's not 4 stages, it's 6. Okay? Now, tell me that's not a difference there. They say we're all the same, but if you are going through identifying things in the lab, you've got to have physical and chemical changes to identify things. And therefore, there's a physical change there. That's one of the tools that the scientists use. Okay? Now, people who use drugs, lax dissolve lax. Remember this. You put water into it. Why does water dissolve and sugar dissolve into water? Hydroxyl groups. Similarities. That's what I mean. Similarities. Water to OH group, sugar to OH, attraction for each other. Okay? Now, alkaloids. There are alkaloids in your body, and there are bad alkaloids outside of your body that you use. And all these things fit under the same category. We call them alkaloids. Purines, pyrrole, quinones. Okay? You familiar with those? Those at the top are harmful alkaloids. But look at serotonin and melatonin. Is there much difference? Look at here. You see? Nature picked those out and they're using them. But if you use those at the top, they're going to kill you. Okay? This is very important. Now, let's move on to, this is melatonin. It tells some of the properties that it do, but the main thing, it polymerizes into melanin and improves Parkinsonism and that sort of thing. Serotonin, same thing. Okay, we got a few properties on it. Now, these are chemicals in the black human that polymerizes into melanin. Phenylalanine, tyrosine, dopamine, norepinephrine, tryptophan, serotonin, melatonin. And you can have all of those things at one time. You can have one at one time throughout the entire body. You see how many different melanins can be formed from that? Okay? But, again, we'll look at similarities relative to the drug. Okay? Now, this is cocaine, marijuana, LSD. You want to see the similarities? Boom. See this endo here? See this system here? Similarities. When you go back here and look at the endo, this is the endo, this is the endo. You see? Well, that's LSD. Now these things will merge with these things, therefore causing a quicker addiction and different chemical reactions to take place where you would stay hooked longer, okay? Therefore, the social scientists who are dealing with getting these people from being hooked have to deal with the fact that we stay hooked longer. It's going to cost more for us to get unhooked. So it's an economical thing. Okay? These are other things that are similar to melanin. You got codeine, morphine, caffeine, nicotine, Agent Orange. If you went to Vietnam, this stuff here, get in your bloodstream. I mean, if it gets tied up with melanin, forget about it. It's going to be there. Okay? Agent Orange, paraquats. Paraquats will be there. Okay? So it's very important when these chemical dumps are put on outside of town that they not be put on outside of town. You see what I'm saying? All right? The neuroleptics, phenothiazone. I'm sure that the psychiatrists that are here today were familiar with these drugs here. The structure, if you go look at the structure of these things, they're similar to melanin. They will dissolve into the melanin molecule. And there's no difference from black Africans and that. Okay? And we should eat proper. I don't have all the answers right now because I don't have a lab. But if I had a lab, we'll start getting the answers. Okay? Proper food, proper exposure to sunlight, sound, magnetism. I mean, let your kids listen to the music. Rap music may be bad, but that's energy, you know? You don't want them to listen to it, but there's energy there. Get the proper exposure to all facets of education, starting at the age of 2 to 3. Teach this education in a rhythmic manner. Okay? Learn several professions. Okay? Because that high potential is there. We're 100% better, remember? Okay? Initiate R&D programs to study and learn the secrets of the black man's body chemistry and develop a whole medical field around the black man. Okay? This knowledge will enable black man to cure certain illnesses that is particular to his race. And remember, melanin is the key to black greatness.